Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live this morning. Hope you're having a great start to your day. And I'll just wait as a few people come on this morning and say hi to John in Elgin, Illinois, and Rosa and Nativity. And Nick is on with us this morning. Michael from Wawa. Kirsten, hold on, let me make sure. Rosa, Keith, Francis, yeah, it's Kristen. And Keith, good morning to you. Fred, Susan, Doris, Delinda, Fran, how are you? Lorraine from BC, early. You're an early riser, Lorraine, Darlene, and good to have you on with Carmelina and Faye and John from Sheridan, Wyoming. Never been to Wyoming. I got to go through there one of these days. I hear it's beautiful. Okay. Annette from New Brunswick and Darlene, Julie from Sturgeon. Good to have you on. Jerry, good to have you too. Kristen, Maria, and Genevieve, and Stephanie, and Clara, and John. Sean, my buddy, how are you? Good to have you on with us this morning. Jane and Shirley and Sandy, so many. Okay, we got to get going. Here we go. We're going to, this is part 2 of high fructose corn syrup. And we talked quite a bit on the previous podcast, the previous live, about the damage of high fructose corn syrup. Now, I'm going to talk to you this morning about a fella that has passed away now, but a colleague in holistic medicine. His name was Dr. Abraham Hoffer. Very, very smart guy, psychiatrist, but holistically, and did a lot of research on sugar and more specifically high fructose corn syrup and what it does to the brain. So we're going to talk about that, but let me just show you something. I thought I would take out this chart, and I don't know how clear this is to you, but you can see here a liver. And the biggest thing, now remember what I was saying to you yesterday, that high fructose corn syrup is a storing sugar. Now, sugar gets stored primarily liver, muscles, or fat cells. Your body has an amazing ability to make fat cells to store sugar. But glucose, which is in your bloodstream, comes from food. Your body breaks it into sugar for energy. If you don't use it as energy, it'll be stored. But the worst sugar, the antichrist of sugar, which is completely different, is high fructose corn syrup. So a little bit of review. It's one and a half times at least sweeter than sugar. It makes a beeline for the liver, unlike ordinary sugar. Not that ordinary sugar cannot get to the liver. It will get to the liver and be stored there, but this gets a beeline. It messes up the gut on the way over to the liver. It messes up the gut because it feeds yeast like nobody's business, and it actually plays with the microbiome and the lining between your gut and your blood. And so it's a very damaging sugar. And now I'll show you again. You see the liver, the normal part of the liver here, and when I'm pointing out on the podcast, I'm showing what fatty liver looks like. You see all these fat balls that are on that part of the liver, that's what fatty liver looks like. Fatty liver looks like. And one of the biggest scourges in our society is non-alcoholic fatty liver. Non-alcoholic, because if you go back even in my school days, when we studied liver, we studied cirrhosis of the liver. And very little of fatty liver, because there was very little fatty liver in the 1970s. There was cirrhosis for people who drank too much. And cirrhosis is just scarring of the liver. Fatty liver is very destructive to your liver too. And it happens rapidly. And one of the biggest scourges in our society is children have fatty liver. How do you know if they have fatty liver? Look at their belly. You want to know the state of your liver? A couple of things you can look at. One of them is you look at your belly. You got belly fat? That's really liver fat. Because your body is the suitcase is full. The Costco parking lot is full. So your body makes more and more fat cells. And it deposits them around the liver and in the belly. So if you're observing anything or anyone, I mean, if you go, today's COVID is different, but if you go sit in your local mall, you will see fatty liver every second person. They'll walk by. And this was unheard of. I mean, I'm bringing you back now to the 70s. For women to have a belly was unheard of. You just didn't see it. Men, yeah, they had the old, what they called the beer belly. Remember that? But women, they didn't have a beer belly. But go to the mall today. Sit and observe. You will see a striking difference between, if you're my age especially, or around my age, if you lived in the 60s and the 70s, you will see a striking difference in people. What happened? It's fructose. There's nothing that gets stored like fat, like fructose. And I used the example yesterday with bears. Bears will take fructose, blueberries, apples, if they can get at them, and they will eat till the cows come home to store up fat for the winter. There's nothing like fructose in nature to make you store fat. And high fructose corn syrup, which is made in the lab, is fructose on steroids. And again, I rest my case. Look at the size of people today, especially their bellies. And people don't realize how dangerous that is. And what's already happening in their liver. And I must repeat, it's not cholesterol. It's not cholesterol that gives heart disease. It's just not. It's triglycerides. And remember, what happens when the liver gets full, It empties itself out as much as it can by producing triglycerides. Triglycerides. 3 fat balls. And they circulate in your bloodstream. And triglycerides are not good because they'll clog up your arteries. They create inflammation. And it's really triglycerides that do that. And they are produced in the liver. Very important to understand that. The problem with fatty liver is that doctors don't diagnose it ordinarily unless they do an ultrasound. Then they can see those nodules, those fat nodules that are sitting here on the liver. They can see that with an ultrasound. But you're not going to go for an ultrasound ordinarily. Doctors aren't doing that. But one way they can do it, and they don't even look. Most of them don't look. I hate to be negative, but most don't look. You don't have to necessarily get an ultrasound. Look at your belly. 1. 2, check your triglycerides. What are your triglycerides? And I'm constantly reminding you, I don't want to talk about cholesterol. And I don't mind looking at your blood work. If you want to send it over, I'll give you my opinion on it. But I tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking at if you got liver enzymes done, good for you. I like that too. But I'm looking at triglycerides. And I want to see how much good cholesterol you have. Because the good guys, the good cholesterol, are the FedEx trucks on the highways of your blood vessels. And they're carrying away your triglycerides. You need cholesterol to do that. And your body makes it. 85% of your cholesterol is made in your liver, but it won't even make it properly if you got fatty liver. Your liver is such an important organ. It's amazing what happens in there. 600 things happen in the liver. You detox from the liver, but what if you have fatty liver? You don't even detox properly. But imagine your liver having a lot to do with your heart. Imagine your liver having a lot to do with your brain. Your liver has a lot to do with your thyroid. T4 is converted to T3 in your liver. T3 is what your thyroid needs to function properly. You got fatty liver, you got trouble. Even with the thyroid, doesn't work like it should. So now back to Abraham Hoffer, who started an institute called the Orthomolecular Institute, which I was a member of a lot of years. And I love their research, man. He was a psychiatrist. And he said, and I mentioned this yesterday, but I didn't tell you who said it, that they did research on high fructose corn syrup and that it was as addictive as cocaine. And it was Dr. Hoffer that first showed that sugar took a root in your brain to the feel-good centers of your brain, the same as cocaine did. And the food industry knew this. Highly addictive sugar, high fructose corn syrup. And Dr. Hoffer said it affected the dopamine centers, serotonin centers in the brain, the feel-good centers in the brain. And any parent, you didn't have to be Dr. Hoffer, any parent, Dr. Mom, ladies, ladies, I'm giving you an honorary degree. Dr. Mom. You got an honorary degree for being a mom. Because moms ordinarily didn't have to be rocket scientists to know you didn't give a kid sugar at nighttime. What would happen, Dr. Mom, for most kids? Woo! They were wound up big time. And you could hardly settle them down. What were you giving them? High fructose corn syrup. In ice cream. There isn't an ice cream that doesn't have high fructose corn syrup in it. You gave them a cookie. And grandma gave, grandma, you know what the word grandma means? We don't say no. You don't think my grandchildren don't love coming here? Because grandma does, it's not part of her vocabulary for the grandchildren. The word no has been taken out. But parents know this. Teachers. Don't give a kid sugar. Don't give them those sugary cereals in the morning. They come to school and they got ADD. They can't sit still. Hundreds? Nah. 1,000 maybe. Kids would come to my office. 5 years old and up. Maybe a little bit younger. Mommy has got a kid that, is always in trouble. What do they want to do at school? They want to sedate the kid with Ritalin. Right? Imagine a medication. I just want to get uptight a little bit for a second. Allow me, please. Imagine the pharmaceutical industry coming out with a medication to sedate children. No talk of changing the diet, because the Pharmaceutical Association, the pharmaceutical companies, and the food companies together, they're not telling you not to eat. The food companies were telling you to eat their cereals in the morning. Frosted Flakes are great. No, they're not. No, they're not. But they said they were. They're not great. They're full of sugar. And they're full of high fructose corn syrup. So, the pharmaceutical industry, what did they do? Oh, we got a new problem. Instead of saying, well, the food industry created it, they just said, no, we're going to help to calm it down. What are we going to do? We're going to develop a medication called Ritalin and its derivatives. And the kid we're going to put him into zombie land. I watched them do it. I happen to be part of a generation that watched the pharmaceutical industry do it. Wasn't fixing the problem, it was sedating the problem. With no real looking at long-term effects of taking Ritalin or whatever. Never good. Never good. All these kids needed to do was change their diet. It's amazing how smart kids are. Kids are smart. I had my little sermon for kids in my office. They'd come in with mommy, usually, or daddy. And I said, okay, what's happening? And, parents would give me all the details, and I would look at the kid, and the kid, I love kids. So I usually grab their little face and say, are you tired of being in trouble all the time? Yeah. I said, well, you got to change your diet, pal. You just happen to be a canary in the coal mine, and that sugar is going right to your brain. And it's changing your personality. It's playing with your mind. Some worse than others. But I would give them that little lecture, because kids are smart. They can figure it out. I said, you got to cut your sugars out. And they're not stupid. Well, what's that mean? Well, you see cereal? Don't eat that in the morning. You have to learn, even at your age. Can you read? Yeah, I can read. I said, you see, and I always had a cereal box in my office. I kept it there. And it always had a little heart on it from the American Heart Association and the Canadian Heart Foundation, or whatever, sponsored by the American Heart Association. And I used to tell people, see the heart on the box? If you eat this cereal, you will have a heart attack. That's what it means. Well, that's not what it was supposed to be meant, but that's what I said it meant. But I would show the kid. I said, okay, I'm going to show you now. You're not stupid. You're smart. You're going to learn to read labels. I'm going to show you. All you have to do is read one thing. Okay. I said, see, come here. They're on, this label is on all the cookies you're going to eat, all the ice cream you're going to eat, all the pizza you're going to eat, all the cereal you're going to eat, all the crappy dinner you're going to eat. I said, you need to read your labels, and I'm going to teach you how to read them. I said, what does that say right there? Sugar. Yeah, you got it. And then I said, look over and see how much sugar's in there. I said, if it's got any more than 2 or 3 grams of sugar, they've added it. And they've added high fructose corn syrup. And that's not good for you. It'll make your brain go wild. You will not be able to focus. You won't be able to concentrate. It's not even your fault. Your brain will just do somersaults. Got it? I said, when you have pizza, understand, they put high fructose corn syrup right on the pizza. When you have crappy dinner, read the label. When you have juice boxes, read the label. And you'll see how much sugar's in there. And I said, it's going to go directly to your brain and mess your brain up. And you're going to be in trouble. And then I talk to the parent. You do it. You change your diet. Take this stuff out of, you got a sick kid here. You got a child that, like not all children react the same, but I said, obviously clinically, they're in my office. Some of them were already on medication to sedate the kid. And I said, the problem isn't a lack of medicine. The problem is the food. And this kid happens to be a canary in the coal mine. And his brain is fragile. And when you put sugar in it, it changes his personality, his or hers. So mommy, daddy, and you might have to sit on grandma too. Bring grandma in here the next time and I'll have a talk with her. because you have a child. And you need to fix it. And Abraham Hoffer said something else about depression. And he said, and did many, many studies on it, that if I could clean up an adult's diet, get them off sugars, the high fructose corn syrup, it's amazing how much better their depression got. And he used to give them some B vitamins and B12 especially, because they were deficient in it. But he talked about the deficiencies of magnesium and chromium. And that's what that sugar does, by the way. Sugar depletes. We talked about it yesterday. High fructose corn syrup depletes your magnesium out of your body. It takes it right out of your body. High fructose corn syrup depletes chromium. You know what chromium is? It's a mineral that helps to stabilize your blood sugar. High fructose corn syrup depletes your vitamin D. They even gave Donald Trump vitamin D. Were they listening to Dr. Martin? Not vitamin C. Vitamin D. Kids are human solar panels. They need vitamin D. And when they eat sugar, it depletes them. Why is 80% of the population low in vitamin D? 80%. Not only do we not get enough sun, but we eat wrong. Sugar depletes it. You see why I get so uptight? I happen to love kids. And I watched them in the 1970s and early 1980s develop a medication to sedate children. In my opinion, it was child abuse. Because they were looking for love in all the wrong places. They never, ever, ever, ever talked about the diet. And they knew bloody well that sugar was the culprit. Especially the high fructose corn syrup. So there you have it. Liver, belly fat. Belly fat is liver fat. We don't even call it beer belly anymore. Not beer belly. It's a sugar belly. It's sugar belly. Kids have sugar bellies. Have you noticed that? They start eating fatty liver as little kids. Imagine. It's child abuse because they're not talking about it. They're not talking about it. I read yesterday that in Mexico, junk food is no longer going to be sold to children. It'll be like cigarettes behind the counter. And you have to be an adult to eat it. I read an article about it yesterday. They've got in Mexico, I talked to you about this in a previous podcast, and we talked about one of the czars down in Mexico talking like COVID he blamed it on Coca-Cola. Because in these villages in Mexico, kids were weaned on Coca-Cola. It was cheaper than water. You're talking about 13, 14 teaspoons of high fructose corn syrup in one soda. And Mexico, I guess the food companies are not as strong down there. I don't have the lobby. They want to put the junk food out of reach of children. in the stores. They can't grab it. They can't buy it, apparently. I don't know if that's passed yet or not. I'm just telling you what they're observing in Mexico. They want to save their population. %50 of them are obese. Guys, can I say this? Well, it's my show. I'm going to say it. Climate change is not our big problem. It's not. It's not the climate. It's not our carbon footprint. It's not fossil fuels. Our big problem that's going to destroy our society is sugar, and especially high fructose corn syrup. Because it's at the root of disease. And all the tea in China is not going to be able to buy our way out of this. All the money in the world want to do it. We're talking trillions. And everybody's, like in our government in Canada and the United States, I know it's part of the election thing. It's, the Green New Deal and the climate. That's not the problem. And when politicians talk about healthcare, they talk about drugs. We need more drugs. We need more hospitals. We need more surgery. We need more doctors. No, we don't. And we've talked about it through COVID. The elephant in the room. It's food. It's food. That's what will destroy our economy. Millions of dollars it costs to treat every diabetic. Millions of dollars in healthcare. In Canada, we don't get the bill. We just get taxed. But it costs millions. When somebody becomes a diabetic, that costs a fortune to manage it. They don't want to fix it. They just want to manage it. So we talked about the Antichrist of sugar the last 2 episodes. And the nice thing is I'm talking to you and you understand these things. And you got the memo. And you do as much as you can. It's not, you can bring a horse to water, you can't make them drink it. Even in your family, you can't make them do it. But the younger you start with kids, and like I say, children are very intelligent. They are very smart. They figure out life pretty quick. They figure out what mommy and daddy are like, and grandma and grandpa. But these are issues of our time. And the problems that are already upon us. Okay, enough ranting for today. Tomorrow, just about for sure, we're going to do breast cancer. We're into October. Are you wearing pink yet? So we're going to look at that. We'll look at what the causes, why it's so prevalent today. We're going to look at some solutions. We're going to look at prevention. That's tomorrow. Coming to a theater near you. And then perhaps on Thursday, looks like it, we maybe do a 2-part on breast cancer. Excuse me. We're going to do the natural flu shot. What's Dr. Martin do for the flu shot? What do I recommend? And I'm not going to talk to you whether you need to get the actual flu shot. I won't talk about that, but I'm going to talk about what you should do to make sure your immune system is ready for the flu season. On top of COVID. Wow, what a world. Okay, so if you're not a member of our Martin Clinic Facebook group, become a member. I am going to go in there today, not quite sure what time yet, and I'm going to talk to my resetters. Okay? I've been delinquent in the last few days, but I will talk to my resetters today and pump up their tires. I hope they're doing well, the ones who started last Thursday on October the 1st. And Friday is question and answer, Friday. And so if you have any questions, be happy to try and answer them on Friday. If you're not a member of the club, join the club. You can join the club, that private Facebook group. Share this. Share this on Facebook. The more shares we get, the more it gets passed around by Facebook. That's how they operate. And so we thank you already for the following that we have. I don't take that for granted. I appreciate it. All you faithful people that are coming on, inviting your friends for a daily podcast, I appreciate that. You have no idea. You guys pump up my tires and are my motivation. I love it, and I mean that. And I love you guys. Now, God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.